Two guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
The unique thing about this is that we had an opportunity to go through this, early on in the year and didn't get the result that we wanted, coming off of that game. So we have a little bit of experience, in that area. So this week is extremely important for us. These guys going to come. It's going to be a playoff game. These guys are fighting for playoff implications as well. So we know we're going to get their best shot.
Patrick Peterson, architect of the halftime speech heard around the world. Guys, we're going to hold them. We just need you to score 5 touchdowns against the Colts. And they did.
Only 5.
Only
5 touchdowns.
That's all we need. All we need. If you want to get us a 6th, it's up to you. 5 will win it. This is Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate here on Mackie and Judd. That means we bring in our friend from the 5 Eyewitness News sports team. His name is Darren Doogie Wolfson. You can find even more from him on the Scoop podcast feed. And Doogs, let's start with Vikings. We'll get to some A-Rod, Mark Lowry updates and some Twin stuff. But this Garrett Bradbury, tenuous back situation, and then he gets into a car accident. So he's missed a couple games. Hello, and what do you know about the Vikings center who's having a career season to this point?
Yeah, he's been great, Phil. Good morning, gentlemen. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday. He's been great here in a contract year. Sometimes guys go one way in a contract year. It's just too much. Other guys are uber motivated for that next contract. Garrett Bradbury should get paid relatively well by someone, maybe even these guys. They do like him come March. So the back was jacked up pretty good even before the car accident post-game on Saturday. So he was telling some people immediately after the Jets game, I know some offensive linemen went to a wild game. There was conversation that he was struggling to walk. Like it was hurting to walk. He's a pretty tough dude, though. I was at practice the Wednesday and Thursday before the Colts game. He was out there. Now we only get to watch for about 20 minutes before they kick us out. So it's some stretching, then some individual work. But he was snapping, wasn't grimacing in pain, but was snapping the ball to Cousins. But I knew at that point, okay, it's a situation worth monitoring. So then when I got to the stadium on Saturday morning, I wasn't necessarily shocked to hear that Austin Schlottman in starting center, Garrett Bradbury out. Now he has missed practice time this week. It certainly is trending toward him not playing against the Giants on Saturday. We'll get that official designation later today. As far as I know, Phil, this is not a season-ending type injury. It's a pain threshold thing. He's just been dealing with a lot of pain.
Interesting stuff. On the defensive side of the ball, Cam Dantzler was replaced by the Duke of Shelley, who has been absolutely, at least on Saturday, was fantastic. I saw that Donato was asked about who could potentially start Dukes at that corner position for the Giants game. He, of course, because of competitive purposes, would not reveal that. But what do we know about Dantzler's progression from being ill, from having a bad ankle, and how much has Shelley's play just purely possibly pulled him ahead of Dantzler on the depth chart?
Well, the Vikings would love to use a healthy Cam Dantzler Sr., but he's not healthy. Now, he's overcome the illness, Judd. Okay. It's that left ankle. Like, Judd, they rushed him back too soon. Maybe it fits the theme here of Reckless Speculation Thursday, but I'm just telling you, my intuition says, my spidey sense says, he should have never been on the field for that Lions game on December 11th. That even though he kept saying in the locker room, yes, I plan on only missing the 4 games. Yes, they put me on IR, but I'm not missing more than 4 games. He gets back after missing those 4 for that December 11th game. But somebody should have been able to protect him from himself. Like, he should not have been out there. And I get it. No Evans, no Booth Jr. At least that week heading into the Lions game, there were still some question marks about Duke Shelley. But you're right. I mean, Duke, since then, has been phenomenal. I mean, the best PFF grade on defense from the Colts game. So, you know, I put it this way. I expect to see Duke Shelley against the Giants plenty. Shameless plug. If you go to my Twitter, DWolfsonKSTP, our excellent photojournalist, Brian, captured some video of Dantzler from practice on Wednesday. He is moving gingerly. Like, you watch him move. Brian had some wide shots. If you watch that video, it is clear as day that the left ankle just isn't all the way there. Now, maybe he can be back at some point, whether it's the postseason. Heck, I'm not sure you want to play him week 18 in Chicago on that crap turf. I mean, that's something I brought up with Judd on Tuesday, Phil, that the Vikings would love to find a way to, secure that number 2 seed, have week 18 not matter so they can rest guys, because Soldier Field's turf is horrible. So the last thing you want to do is put Dantzler out there with a bad ankle, or Irv Smith Jr., who is expected back, not this week, but at some point here. Like, I don't know if you want to put those guys out there on that Soldier Field turf on January 8th.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, even the game against the Packers is likely to matter, because you're still going to be, almost no matter what, I think you're going to be fighting mathematically for. I don't think you can put San Francisco away even if they lose a couple games until at least back-to-back wins over this weekend and then the Packers. So that is,
I mean, the Niners, a reminder, the Niners have the tiebreaker just based on conference record. So if the Niners and Vikings finish tied, the Niners are the 2 seed, the Vikings are the 3 seed. So when you think about the possibility of a second-round playoff game the weekend of January 21st, do you want the 49ers here or in Santa Clara? That's a very easy answer. I think you like your chances here against a rookie quarterback, even though the Niners defense is ungodly. But you want the 49ers here. And I get it on the record, Phil. We know this. The Vikings always talk about 1-week championship season, mindset, just the Vikings. But there are people over there in Eagan that are thinking beyond Saturday, right? And this is one of those scenarios that has been discussed. Hey, can we put ourselves in a position to secure the 2 seed by Sunday night, January 1st, so we can rest some guys January 8th, be in a position then to head into the playoffs fully healthy the weekend of January 14th.
Yeah. So here's a question. Speaking of looking into the future, I think the calls for Ed Donatell's head or some major change on defense definitely hit a high point before the Colts game. And Kevin O'Connell came out early in the week before the Colts game and said, we're digging in. We're gonna look to fix this. I'm not at this point gonna make a major move. Not gonna fire him, and at this point, not gonna take play calling away. I know the Vikings gave up 33 points as a team, but punt return touchdown, pick six, some short field goals. The defense itself actually did pretty well. Like, it was one of the better performances, as it should be, by the way, against that terrible offense with fossil Matt Ryan. The defense only gave up like 4.5 yards of play, which is 1.5 yards lower than the average. I guess my question to you is, where do you sense we are at now with this Ed Donatell tension that reached a peak point maybe a week and a half ago?
Well, I mean, I think the tension is gone. I mean, when you allow only 1 touchdown on defense, Ed Donatell deserves all sorts of credit. You're looking at somebody who on Channel 5 here in the Twin Cities called for Ed Donatell's head on Sunday night, December 11th.
Wow.
I just said, hey.
Wow, Declan went on Channel 5 and called for his head. Declan went on Channel 5.
He said, give me Donatell's head on a platter. And I was like, Declan, no, don't do that, no.
Hey, Declan, if you want to be on Channel 5, you can happily work tonight for me if you want. You can work Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Trust me, I'll lay out the red
Christmas
carpet.
Eve's your domain, Dukes.
I'll be at the Vikings game on Christmas Eve, so that's okay.
They always ask the Jewish guy to work on Christmas. It's ridiculous.
The Jewish guy has no problem working on those holidays. The beauty is, thankfully, the NBA has games on ABC, so I can get in there late on Sunday for Christmas Day. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at somebody who called for Donatell's head just because there was a logical candidate in-house. It's not like I thought, hey, bring in some outsider. I mean, Mike Pettin is an accomplished defensive coordinator. He knows how to call a defense. I just thought it was logical you make that move since Pettin has his fingerprints on the defense anyway. And it wasn't just, hey, his head. I was just thinking some sort of demotion. I wasn't like, hey, kick Ed out of the building. I would like to see Pettin call the defense against the Colts. But Donatell deserves credit. Now, I can't help but wonder if Jonathan Taylor doesn't get hurt 4 or 5 plays in, do things go differently? But we saw schematic changes. They blitzed more than they've blitzed in any game. We saw the former Gopher, Asezi Otamawu, in on a bunch of third downs. Now, that may have been personnel-based just because Patrick Jones was still a little bit ill. Now, he was at the stadium, but just wasn't in a position to play on Saturday. But Otamawu played 14 snaps, did a pretty good job. But just, the way they were blitzing, using different guys to blitz, we saw some schematic changes. So Donatel certainly deserves credit for that. So the tension, I don't want to say it's gone, Phil, but it certainly has subsided.
On that note, Dukes, so the Colts were a really good defensively get well game too. They I think were, if I'm not mistaken, going into that game, second to last in the league in scoring. So I think the blitzing went from going into the Detroit game. I want to say they were blitzing something like an average of 16%. Detroit, they blitzed like 30, and they actually tried, and it just flat out didn't work. And then to your point, against the Colts, it went up to 40%. How much do we think what we saw against the Colts was a schematic game plan, because clearly defensively it worked, and how much was a Kevin O'Connell perhaps infused mandate to change? Like, I'm very curious now for the Giants game to see if a lot of the principles that were put in place for the Colts game stay there, because the Giants aren't great, but they're definitely a more difficult offensive foe. So, like, I guess my question is this: how much do we think a corner has potentially been turned here, or how much is this just a wait and see? Because Ed does feel like the type of guy who likes to go back to his principles when he can, and I don't know those principles are perhaps the most effective thing.
I will bet you lunch at Park Tavern next week, Judd, that the Vikings do not blitz as much as they blitzed against the Colts when talking about Saturday's game against the Giants. You're not going to blitz the Giants 40% of the time. It's just not going to happen. So, the answer ultimately somewhere in the middle there, Judd, but they're not going to blitz Daniel Jones, who is fully capable with his feet. Saquon Barkley, dangerous in the screen game, just the overall passing game. Like, you're not going to blitz 40% of the time. So, if you want to make that wager, I'll happily make that wager. Lunch at Park Tavern next week. The Vikings don't come close to blitzing 40% of the time.
Yeah, actually, Daniel Jones, according to our friends at Pro Football Focus, he has a higher average yards per attempt, and this is common for some quarterbacks because they'll hunt down the field when they're blitzed. But he's better in a lot of categories when you blitz him versus when you don't. And among quarterbacks who run the ball, he has the second highest run grade when blitzed, behind only Josh Allen. So you do have to be careful, because he can make you pay a little bit. He's Daniel Jones, but like, there can be some big plays that come out of it if you're getting too aggressive. And I like the fact that you're going to treat Judd to lunch at Park Tavern. That is the official sports bar of the sports dad himself, Judd Zulgad.
Well, and here's the best part: it's close. I mean, it's right down the street in SLP here, so it's a simple drive in this cold December that Doogie will treat me, and I can grab a beer. It's great. And I said too, and I was sort of joking, but I'm not, Doogie, let's get a group, because like we could get a whole group. So you could pay your penance by buying a group lunch. And it's this simple. Parktavern.net is the place that we can find a ability to reserve an entire room if we want. Bowling, open 365 days per year. What more could Sports Dad want from his sports bar? Park Tavern, open all year round, and is a great place for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, a beer, whatever your group. Parktavern.net is the place to go.
I'm thinking New Year's Eve, Judd. Right? I mean, we got to find a way to entertain our kids. So we're all about Park Tavern. Last year, we tried to go to the Mall of America, but there was a shooting. Right,
Yeah.
so
Now, Park Tavern,
we're like pulling into the parking ramp.
No,
Bloomington cops like, get the heck out of here. So we ended up,
you know what?
we ended up going bowling in the West End.
Let's not
But
combine my
I think we just make
read
the plans for Park
with
Tavern.
what happened at the mall. That's not the same thing. Not at all. I
Correct.
don't want to talk
That's
about
what
that.
I'm
I
saying.
want to talk
Make
about
it
the
nice and simple.
cosmic
No
bowling for the
worries.
kids.
We have nothing to worry about in St. Louis Park at Park Tavern. That's what
No,
I'm saying.
but
So,
if you are
New
a
Year's
business,
Eve,
if you are a business that may need a guiding hand through some risk management, conversations, Federated's been around for over 100 years. Official partner of the Timberwolves, by the way. They're a bunch of Minnesota sports fans riding the roller coaster with all of us over at Federated. But they've been around since 1904, based in Owatonna, helping businesses navigate the waters of business, which can sometimes be choppy, Sometimes they're smooth and rewarding, and Federated is here to help guide through all of it. FederatedInsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, I'm just going to throw it back to Doogie here. You go. If you have more Vikings, go ahead. If you want to get into the A-Rod Laurie stuff, wherever you want to take us.
Well, so Oli Udoh, Vikings offensive lineman, his attorney reached out to a few reporters this morning. There was no need for me to put the statement on Twitter. I figured I was joining you guys. I sent it into our newsroom. But anyway, charges dropped. So he was arrested in Miami that bye week. There were some allegations leveled against him, some charges, but those charges have been dropped. So Oli Udoh, Vikings offensive lineman, has nothing to worry about. The attorney alluded to this possibility soon after the arrest, and now 2 months later, we have full clarity. If you would like to transition to the Wolves, we can certainly do that right now.
Let's do it. Yeah. Are A-Rod and Laurie going to come up with enough money to buy this thing?
You know what? You look at the Phoenix Suns sale price this week, Phil, $4 billion.
Dude, that's bomb.
What a steal. Mark and Alex are getting the Wolves at for what? 1.51, 1.52. I mean, it's $1.5 billion essentially. Think about it. The Phoenix Suns going for more than double. And I get it. Maybe the infrastructure, well, there's some issues behind the scenes in Phoenix, but the overall infrastructure maybe a little bit better in Phoenix, maybe a slightly bigger market,
not really. It's
newer arena, but not really.
They're just more competent on the court, basically.
Old building too, right?
It is an old building,
That's
not as old as Target Center. That's what I'm saying. Well, it's an old building, just not as old as Target Center. So that's what I'm saying. The infrastructure may be slightly better, but really 2.5 times better? Heck no. Right? So if you think about Mark and Alex, what a steal. Getting the Wolves at the price they are getting the Wolves at. So let me offer some clarity on that situation. It's been reported at different times that more money was due to Glenn by the end of this month, by December 31st, 2022, another 20%. That actually is not correct. So Mark and Alex need to submit a letter to Glenn, actually before December 31st, a couple days before, but sometime in the next week. They will submit that letter. Like, why wouldn't you submit that letter? That letter will just say, hey, we plan on moving forward with the process. Phil, I'm just telling you, with the G League Showcase going on right now in Vegas, many executives out there. The Wolves have Dell Demps, John Wallace. They have Manny Rohan from the front office. So every team has 3, 4, 5 front office members in Vegas right now. Lots of scuttlebutt, including about the Wolves sale situation. Still people asking questions about Alex Rodriguez, whether A-Rod truly will be able to come up with the money. Now, I have not heard those questions about Mark Laurie. So I suppose in the end, if Laurie needs to cover for his dear friend Alex, he can. So as far as I know, things are progressing for Mark, and Mark will become the majority owner around this time a year from now. But those questions are still out there about Alex Rodriguez. I've been saying it for how many months now? The questions just aren't going away.
Interesting.
So, okay. So it's potentially reckless speculation, scuttlebutt, which we absolutely love. But
Reckless speculation.
If I was to, from your discussions, and you certainly are in touch with the situation, Darren, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put the legitimacy of the fact that this is a problem?
Well, it's a problem for A-Rod.
Right, but I'm just saying. Right, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Glenn is asking questions. I can just tell you that, and those close to Glenn are certainly asking the questions. It's just not, some agents, some media members, a business reporter from Sportico. It goes beyond that, right? Okay. We're chasing the trail, and Glenn and those close to Glenn have been wondering some stuff. So I wouldn't put it at a 9 or a 10 on the panic scale, but it's certainly beyond a 1 or a 2. But I'm just saying,
Laurie's gonna be involved.
I've always been led to believe that Laurie has a way, and I'm telling you, it is such a sweetheart deal. I mean, I wonder if Glenn is having any second thoughts looking at that Phoenix Sun sale price, but that's too far, down the road to fix. But just $4 billion. I mean, that was eye-opening this week. But Mark, as far as I know, can proceed. I just wonder if in the end it's Mark Laurie majority owner, not Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez.
Hold on a second here, though. Wait. Reckless speculation Thursday must lend itself to what I am about to say.
Reckless speculation.
I'm all ears.
My guess is, Phil's going to hate this. Doogie's going to run with it. My guess is the official documentation of the change says it's Mark and Alex. You just brought up a great point. There is no way the Phoenix Suns as an entity in the same league are worth that much more. If the official document is basically like, I have agreed to sell the team to these two guys, and this team is now worth, I mean, what, Duke?
Let's say 2.5 even.
Yeah, or 3. Let's say 3. Let's say $1 billion less. Could Glenn bring the lawyers in and be like, hold on a second here. I agreed to sell this. The signing documents have an agreement with me and two parties. Now you're changing what the documentation is going to say. I'm just throwing it out there that what you're saying makes perfect sense, which is there is no way the Wolves are that much lower of valuation. I wonder if this would, I mean, Glenn's got to have some folks in his ear, right? Being like, holy cow, holy shnikes, Glenn, $4 billion.
Yeah, it might be a different word than shnikes, but yes.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there that this could give him cause to be like, hold on, if you can't do the deal as stated, then you can't do the deal.
It's an interesting hypothesis, Judd. You know,
I mean,
the wheels are spinning.
Lawyers
in my head.
All lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, you know, frankly, I have thought about. You know, I've also thought about the possibility of Glenn just saying, you know what? Why? Like, I'll wait. You know, if there's a way to get out of it, right? I mean, Glenn has told me on the record that he still plans on having his fingerprints all over this franchise. He's still going to be involved. He's still going to maintain those courtside seats. He still has the great relationship with Adam Silver, others in the league office in New York, right? Glenn isn't going to be just, you know, way in the background. That's just not going to be Glenn as long as he's still alive, right? But I think more likely is maybe something you just alluded to, Judd, that maybe it's the reworking of the documentation, maybe not necessarily chasing more money. I don't know if, you know, hey, trust me, every billionaire has some shadiness, but in this instance, I don't know if Glenn would go that trying to chase another to $1.5 billion, right? They agreed on a number. You know, I'm telling you, I can see it proceeding with Mark being, you know, square front and center, not, you know, Mark with Alex right next to him.
What's interesting is, so again, Phoenix is not, it's a comparable market size, right? The franchise has been way better. They've flirted with winning the championship, and the Timberwolves have made, like, they popped up once or twice in the last 15 years to go to the playoffs. So the difference is really just stability and on-court success. But according to Forbes, this just came out 2 months ago, their latest team valuations, the Suns are valued at $2.7 billion, so good for them for getting a $4 billion sale. The Wolves, $1 billion less, 28th in the league at 1.67. Operating income, however, the exact same for both organizations, $87 million operating income. So think about that. Just basically just the brand and the perception of the Suns and where they're going. Not operating income and the actual running of the business. The perception and the brand is worth $1 billion more than the Timberwolves. So they got some work to do.
I imagine the local TV contracts are comparable. You know, there's WNBA teams in both markets. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, it's brand, right? Because frankly, with Sarver and some of this stuff, all these ESPN stories by Baxter Holmes, I mean, Phoenix behind the scenes is a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Right? Everything that has taken place going back years, the racism, other things, sexism, right? And so behind the scenes, the Suns are a wreck, right? Not that the Wolves haven't had some wreck to them the last couple of years, right? But right now, the Wolves seem more stable than Phoenix. But yeah, $4 billion. By the way, the Michigan businessman that is buying the Suns, his name came up here for the Wolves. So I don't know how far those talks went, if they even got off the ground. But he's been interested in a while. He played basketball. His name is Matt. He played basketball for Tom Izzo at Michigan State, diehard Spartans fan, big-time businessman in the Detroit area. his name did come up for the Wolves, before Mark and Alex sealed the deal.
Interesting. Dukes, let's go some rapid fire here, starting with Twins in the wake of we found out that the Twins weren't even the second choice for Carlos Correa. He winds up with the Mets. So let's start with Twins here to empty the bag.
Well, I mean, how about the fact that Carlos Correa is willing to move to third base right now? It was going to happen.
His wife loves it
right
here.
Now?
His wife loves it here. Loves Minnesota. Loves the State Fair.
I think these things can be true, Phil. That he did enjoy it here. His wife did enjoy it here. He also was craving a bigger market, whether it was going to be San Francisco or New York. That he was never coming back here at 10-285. And, we can debate were the Twins right or wrong to draw a line in the sand. The Twins were not going any higher than 10-285. I'll even tell you, there was concern about even going to 10 years. In the end, they did it.
Then what are they doing?
Concern about going to 10 years.
I'm okay not going to 10. I'm okay not going to 13. I'm okay not signing him in free agency. But why did they waste all of that attention and bandwidth on a total pipe dream? Like they weren't going to get him. So then they just but we got Joey Gallo and we're ecstatic. Like
that's a fair comeback, right? I mean, they identified Xander Bogaerts as plan B. Why not be more aggressive on Bogaerts? Right? It doesn't sound like the Padres were in from the get-go. The Padres came in pretty late at 11 years. Now, maybe they would have come in if the Twins had made Bogaerts an 8 or 9 year offer. Maybe the Padres still come in at 11 years. But why not pivot earlier than they did? That is fair criticism to me, that they were too all in on Correa when we knew, Phil, we had said for how long? In the end, the Twins were never going to make him the richest money offer, right? But yeah, I mean, I wonder, is he going to be celebrated? I mean, it's way in September. The Mets are here in September. But will he be celebrated by the fan base? Maybe at that point, the fan base will have completely tuned out if the Twins are, 10 games back with 3 weeks to go.
Yeah.
But
He'll be
I wonder about
show.
the reception
It won't be good.
that Correa will get, because there have to be some people upset saying, come on, Carlos, really? You're moving to third base. I know Francisco Lindor, your countryman, your good buddy, all that. You have a better chance to win immediately in New York. Okay, we get that. But you told us you liked it here. Byron Buxton told us at the fashion show at Mall of America you really wanted to be back here. That's one of your buddies. And all the Twins had to do was go get him. Well, 10-285 after things fell apart with the Giants. What was wrong with that?
Well,
why did you need 12, 315?
To me, it's a naive front office. They just are like.
But he's going to get booed here because he didn't see. Okay, I have no problem with him not bashing the town. Okay, that's smart. But the whole thing of I got to go get a Juicy Lucy, and I love he's a very polished con man.
Oh, he's incredibly polished. Yes,
and look, I mean, we've seen this before. I'm not calling him a terrible guy. I don't know him enough to do so, but he's a polished con man. And when you're literally talking about going to the State Fair, like who else has come here and signed as a free agent and talked about the State Fair? Just don't come on, dude. Come on. And then you convince the media, you win the good guy award because you talk, which you should do. So that's the thing is I think he deserves to be booed because he thinks he's really smart. And it's like, dude, you're not that smart. Come on. Your wife. I mean, who talks about, don't talk about your family.
Carlos Correa is not the villain here. He came in, he played, he said things to become a well-liked player. Man.
But it's a con man. It's a con man job. When you talk about going to the State Fair and you talk about Juicy Lucy's, you're a con artist. You think it's why you felt comfortable with the cheating thing.
But here's the thing. But here's my thing. Okay,
he did anything wrong.
Here's my thing. Okay, he was the central figure on one of the most controversial cheating baseball teams of all time, and now we're shocked that he's a con man.
No.
This is why I've been saying since March, you guys, this is a one-year gift that fell into your lap. Leverage it in the right way. Of course he's a con man. Right. He cheated his way to a World Series.
Exactly. But my problem with it is if he'll be booed or not, of course he will be. He deserves to be. He doesn't care.
He deserves to be booed more for cheating his way to a World Series than for telling Minnesotans he likes Juicy Lucy's, for me.
It's just
like there's
such
been
BS.
nothing new has been found out about Correa's personality since a year ago, and that's why. And to me, it's more of a front office thing. Like, what did you think was going to happen, guys? Well, we thought he was good. We thought no. Be a step ahead.
That's where they deserve criticism, right? That they didn't pivot earlier. Okay, here's the series of events from Tuesday. So I'm over at Target Field, hanging with Joey Gallo. Then afterwards have a conversation on the mic with Derek Falvey. He held court for a while in the clubhouse. I leave the clubhouse at 1:30. At that point, the Twins were still wondering, we're trying to gather information just like you guys are. We don't know exactly what is going on. All we knew at that point was the Giants had postponed the news conference. Now, certainly there was scuttlebutt in the Twins clubhouse. Hey, okay, if you're postponing the news conference and the Giants are a very transparent organization and it was a one-sentence email, that, okay, it was definitely something medical. It was either insurance policy related, because to get an insurance policy on a contract of 13 years, 300 and whatever, 50 million, like you can only do those in like 5-year increments at best. Probably would be $5 to $6 million a year. It's a very detailed process. You need to involve multiple insurance carriers. So we thought it was either insurance policy related or failed physical related. Like there was no sense that, his agent couldn't get to San Francisco or Carlos couldn't get to San Francisco. Like he was there, his wife was there, all that stuff, right? Like it wasn't that. The Twins knew that, right? Because they had to have some conversations with Scott on Joey Gallo just to firm up everything with Gallo as he underwent his physical and arrived in town on Monday night and was going to be introduced on Tuesday. So the Twins knew that Scott had made it to San Fran, that Carlos had made it to San Francisco. But in the end, certainly some red flags on the physical. Now, the Twins were comfortable giving him 10 years. Heck, the Twins late Tuesday night would have done the 10-year deal still. Even with concern, they still would have done it. And the Twins, in theory, even though certainly there are questions about the Twins' medical staff going back years, the Twins were comfortable giving him a 10-year contract. So what happened sometime later on Tuesday in the 4 to 5 to 6 o'clock range, 7 o'clock-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, Scott reaches out to the Twins, to Derek. And, they have a quick conversation, but the Twins still had questions. What exactly happened in San Francisco? What I'm still trying to nail down is Scott is notorious for pushing his free agents into January, right? Even into early February. Now, he took some guys off the board early in 19. He's taking guys off the board this year. So it's not all the time, but he has taken guys into late January. Why the push to get Correa done so fast after things fell apart with San Francisco? Heck, Correa's in New York today for his physical. The Mets will introduce him here pretty darn quick. Maybe not later today, maybe tomorrow, but, heck, he's there. Now, they could postpone the press conference until whenever, but he's there in New York today for the physical. So the Mets are moving this thing along. But, why was he so inclined to get things done so fast on Tuesday? But one Twins official told me things just moved really fast with New York. Scott is no dummy. He went right to Steve Cohen. He knew he had Cohen in his back pocket. Yeah. Cohen was going to cut the check. Once Correa was on board with playing third base, because that's what some Twins people told me, that they thought in the end it was just them and the Giants. That, the Mets came in late, but he was never going to New York because he wasn't in a position from a mindset standpoint to play third base. He wasn't ready to move to third base. So when did Carlos exactly embrace the idea of moving to third base? And why did Scott move things so fast on Tuesday? Those are still some questions I have. But in the end, the Twins did not budge on their offer. Talks did not progress in any sort of, sense or form on Tuesday. It was all about
Boris did call him back,
Scott
right,
with
Doogie?
the Mets. Yes, he did. But
okay,
I'm saying,
so
I don't want to raise the
one more
hopes
chance.
of Twins fans thinking like they had a realistic chance on Tuesday, late afternoon, early evening. The Twins did not have a chance to get Carlos on Tuesday night.
Which means they did not have a chance to get Carlos ever. Period.
Yeah, well, sure, because they were never going to make. Now, if the Twins had made a 12-year, $315 million offer, I'd have been fascinated to see, okay, does Carlos come back here or does he go to New York? That would have been very fascinating to me because I think he craves the spotlight, the big city, the big market, right? So, I wonder, does he take the Mets 12, 315 with a better chance to win immediately versus staying at shortstop, staying here 12-3-15. I would have loved to have seen that scenario, but the Twins were not willing to do that.
Great stuff, Dukes. We got to run.
Reckless speculation.
Happy holidays to you. And, yeah, if you want to farm off some of your TV stuff on Declan, you know, you can borrow him. You're welcome to.
I would love to, Declan. So
Declan reads anything that's on the prompter.
Yeah. Do you have a good
mother?
Yeah, you need a suit,
dudes,
Declan. I'd
no
love
problem.
To have
I got suits. Okay. And then even, I thought TV production was going to be my thing because that's what I went to college for. But I did some TV still at St. Cloud. I can read a prompter. And in fact, the only reason
you can read a prompter. Okay,
yeah,
good.
the only reason
not every word, but like
not
the
every
smaller
word.
words.
I'm not spelling the prompter. I can
Especially
read
under
the
video.
prompter.
Who cares? Just say whatever under video. You just got to read the words on camera.
The one thing that really has driven me that I regret about not going to TV is I think I'd be the king of small talk banter after the prompter. When we're just making the small talk between.
Chris Long, really good.
I do it at home when I watch the news.
As you're kind of stacking your papers and there we go.
There's an art form because
sports.
You need to show that you care, even if you really want to feign interest. You got to be enthusiastic. And you got to make sure that the anchors are willing
especially
to
those
engage you in the by-play. So,
yeah.
See, if I was an
it's
anchor,
a very finite amount of time, right? Like you've only got 10 or 15 seconds to have that by-play.
If I was an anchor, I'd probably say, "No one cares, Doogie. Thanks."
Yeah.
All right, moving on to
you know what I want,
traffic
Dukes?
here.
Dukes, Christmas Eve, I want you to get on, and instead of delivering the traditional sports, I want 2 or 3 of your hottest takes.
Yes.
Ooh.
I don't want them right off the prompter.
Straight into the
camera. In fact, you tell.
I don't need a prompter.
As you come back, exactly right. You say, shut the prompter off. And then when they say, what's going on in the world of sports? You say, on December 11th, I came on this station and said, Ed Donatel should be fired. And I still believe that he is a fraud of a defensive coordinator. Kevin O'Connell, get your act together and do it now.
Here are 3 people who
I'll
deserve
consider the
coal
advice.
in their stockings.
Oh, God,
All
that's
right,
a good
boys.
one, too.
One other note, the Padres came in late on Christian Vasquez. The Twins held off San Diego. How much fun would it be to be a fan of the Padres or the Mets? Those two teams want to spend money. Everybody else.
What, it's not fun being a fan of the Twins? Or you're
We
just
just beat
bailing
them
on
on
the Twins?
Vasquez. You just said this. We held them off.
They
Take
did?
that. Take that. You take your Xander Bogaerts.
Hang the banner.
Yeah, and the Twins were willing to do a 1 year of Brandon Drury, but Phil Nevin's his guy, so Drury was never coming here.
Yeah.
Nothing else really percolating. They've had some conversations on re-signing Michael Fulmer, but they don't want to pay him what he's looking for right now. So maybe that's a January or early February type move if he's still out on the market. They're not in on Waka. They've made a phone call on Evaldi, but there's not many good free agents left. That's the problem.
Are they in on Warren Spahn?
Yeah.
He's dead, but I heard you can get him cheap.
But
right,
he's
boys.
under team control. All right.
Happy
see you,
holidays.
dudes.
Yeah.
All right, there he is.
Robin Roberts.
Troy Gloss. Speculation.
Oh, my God. Inside information about your favorite Minnesota sports teams. And this is always a safe zone on Thursdays to speculate about the future of Minnesota sports.